Hello, philosopher. So grab a cup of coffee, whatever that you are interested in checking as we are starting this discourse about our philosophy of the break today. This week I'll discuss the Buddha on the problems arising from ego. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So the topic, as it says, Buddha on the problem arising from ego. Before we dive in a quick word from this week's sponsor. The sponsorship are personally vetted by me and are crucial to keeping the newsletters free for everyone. So let's keep checking out the offering. If it looks interesting, feel free to follow. And the sponsor, Waking Up, the lessons and interviews with philosophers practicing Buddhism, Stoicism, and more. Understanding your mind step by step, learn the fundamentals of mindfulness and other practical philosophy with this popular app, or rather by listening to me. It is crucial for your life. Also, there's a link. There's an app I follow by the guy called. He's a neuroscientist. It's called Sam Harris. Maybe you have heard of him. Maybe you haven't heard about him. But that was just another story in another news. But today, let us begin our philosophy break. You see, one of our most prominent and damaging misconceptions about reality, the Buddha thinks, is our confused notion of self. By deflating our conventional notion of self and understanding what we really are, we can undermine suffering and live more tranquil lives. Interesting. On the face of it, the Buddha's concept of anatman, i.e., no self, you don't really exist, seems a very strange view for our sense of self. Is usually one of the most familiar things to us, but there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the Buddha really means here, or rather what he really means when he says no self, that you don't really exist. Indeed, there's much debate with Buddhism itself about what Atman itself. A vast literature sits on top of the Buddha's original insight, offering many different interpretations and expansions, some more hardline than others. I consider this more metaphysical side of the discussion in this article. But for our purpose here, we can think of Buddha as simply targeting the idea of persistent self. Ultimately, the Buddha tells us there's no substance or soul within us. We're just composite bundles of impermanent processes. Interesting. Our thoughts, desires, moods, memories, the hair on our head, the nails in our fingers and toes, the cells of our bodies, all is in flux. Sometimes when you read such deep conversation, it reminds you, rather, it really sends you astray. But what makes you of today the same as you of, say, 10 years ago? The Buddha answer is well beyond the causal chain linking you in time. Nothing, because the concept of you is empty. You refer not to some permanent substance. It's simply a convenient way to refer to the myriad, ever-changing individual processes that collectively we call you. So people exist in a public, conventional sense. We just aren't what we think we are in a private, ultimate sense. And by mixing the two, we cause quite a few problems for ourselves. Though we tend to impose continuous narrative and meaning to ourselves. These narratives are hopelessly simplified fictions and conventions. In reality, we are an incredible, complex, swirling collection of change. Why is the self harmful? If we start believing the self is actually real, some kind of independent, persistent substance as opposed to conventional fiction, the danger is that it encourages us to view everything through its lenses. We feel so intimately connected to this self that it becomes the most important thing in the universe. We think everything goes around ourselves, like the world goes around you. That's egomaniac in a way. Okay. We then judge reality only by how it impacts this fiction self, which lead us to develop certain attachment and aversions. I like this and I don't like that. I want more of this and less of that. I love this and require it to be content. I hate this and whenever it happens, I'm filled with dread and anxiety. We become enslaved by the fiction self, by the demands of ever-changing internal monologue, like a black hole bending space time to trap light. The illusion of self warps reality and traps our thoughts, feelings, and experiences in ego. And as the world is fundamentally transient, as it is, and rarely accords with the hopes and desires we place on it, bad things happen and good things always end. As long as we continue to view reality through the lens of illusionary ego, as long as we continue to grasp for things we imagine this self wants, as long as we use flawed mental models as crutches and misunderstand what we really are, we set ourselves up for perpetual suffering. The dangers of identity. Another harm that comes from viewing the self as real, independent substance is that it encourages us to attribute certain qualities to it. In other words, we start to cling to certain identities, become attached to certain ways of thinking about ourselves, both positive and negative, and this leads to real suffering. Consider, I'm a failure. What does this mean? Which part do you have failed? The hairs on your skin, the digestive system, the ability to count? Which? Or consider, I'm a pessimist. Why box in your boundless composite existence by selecting only the pessimistic thoughts that bubble up, declaring those to be a true reflection of some persistent self or nature, and ignoring the great variety and potential of your existence? Damn. Positive views of self can be just as sinister. Buddhists draw on a powerful image here. Imagine a knife smeared with honey. Initially, the knife tastes sweet, but it will soon cause you serious damage. So it is with our positive sense of identity. The Buddha argues we might find real pleasure and happiness from it in the short term. I'm an athlete. I'm a top-tier lawyer. I'm a doctor. But due to the transience of life, we will not sustain such identities forever. One day, we will wake up to find we no longer quite fit with who we thought we were or craved to be. The honey has all gone, just the knife remains. It truly humbles you. Buddhism aims to fix our misconception about identity, not by showing us the correct identity, but by claiming that we do not have an identity at all. Our recurrent thoughts, feelings, hopes, fears, desires, moods, obsession, attachments, none of them define us, for nothing does. When in a transient, composite world, we see ourselves for what we really are, ever-changing bundles of the self. We recognize that all identity is fallacy, unburdened ourselves from the illusion of self, and better connect to reality. By releasing ourselves from the distorting gravity of self, we see that we are just like everything else, and not more important than anything else. Everything in reality becomes our concern, not just the illusionary self of small warped part of it. In a very real way, far realer than our names or job titles. We are each little conscious parts of the cosmos, coexisting and interacting yet soon to dissipate. We of course participate in the games of convection. We maintain our public personas, but perhaps we can do so without letting the shallow, fragile fiction ego obscure or undermine the ultimate truth of what we are. Interesting. No self creates room for that central Buddhist value, compassion. No self creates, and no self creates a room for that central Buddhist value, which is compassion. By moving the grasping reality warping self out of the way, we better recognize that though we might be trapped in dukkha, suffering, so is everybody else we know. The existence of very sentimental being is characterized by suffering. For exactly the same reason ours is we live transient lives of ignorance and pain. In encouraging detachment from self, then Buddhism does not look away from reality. It's not here to free us from the world. It's here to free us for the world. Buddhism does not look away from reality. It's not here to free us from the world. It's here to free us for the world. That's about honing selflessness through Buddhism practice. We, as with Iris Mudok process of unselfing, put grasping ego to one side, open ourselves to reality, and cultivate love and compassion, whole being. From the other side of the ego, the Buddha tells us experience expand to include the whole cosmos, a cosmos that moves tranquility, freely and effortlessly. What do you make of the Buddhism analysis? Do you agree with the Buddhist analysis of the self? Is it possible to productively apply no self to everyday life? In deflating the ego really the way to a better life? Or do you agree with Nietzsche's comment that if you want to decrease and diminish people's susceptibility to pain, you also have to decrease and diminish their capacity for joy? Nietzsche. If you enjoy the philosophy, follow for more. So last week I met this guy, James Baldwin. And I was talking about this book about how suffering can become a force for good, and it generated some fantastic thoughts and discussions. So one of my friend called Gudrun from Canada, this was his message. I found that physical pain may be short and quick to react and definitely not patient, but mental pain and suffering, so different, it makes you so much more aware of everything around you, of others, plants, animals and people all over the world, and you can feel their pain. Now, even their physical pain, and you learn practice because there is no pill that will take it away. Patience and empathy not only with others but also with yourself, so necessary. That's how you grow. You learn this hard way to embrace all of the sentient beings on this earth. You learn to share your humanity. That was good drawn, and it was quite a provoking and profound response. Also, there was also a lady called Mary from Netherlands, and this was her take, this was her response, and this was her thought. And she says, I quote, "An awareness of pain can, but not always, give us an awareness of knowing that another can also have pain. And if we have empathy, then yes, I believe it can deepen our connection with others. Does it really reveal our own pain? It's good not to feel alone, not to feel that it's personal, that we are being punished or for something. The why me sense, I'm not sure if that relieves our pain, perhaps makes it easier to live with I do think it can help reveal our fear of pain, of death, of suffering. Also, her friend Andrew, also from Netherlands, this was his response. Yes, everybody hurts. We are not all artists or sculptures, and yet, with our individual pain, we can use it and mold it. We can encompass the pain, wrap it up, and deliver it. We can deliver our pain addresses and stamped for one or for everyone. How do we offer our pain? Is it for what we judge the best interest of for humanity, or will it cause more pain to the future, yet to be seen on the horizon? Now, this is just a small sample of the replies that I got from my friends, or rather from the comment section, or from my inbox. So you can reply, and I'd love to see your thoughts. So thank you for listening. And now, philosophy break is one person labor that takes thousands of hours to understand and deliver it. So means a lot. So yeah.